With July 1st just a couple of days away, a lot of reports are coming out about the Toronto Raptors' plans heading into free agency, including offering Fred VanVleet a massive extension. Thaddeus Young bringing him back on a pretty reasonable contract. There's also been leaks about what the Toronto Raptors' asking price for OG Anunoby was during the NBA draft, as well as more reports about the Raptors being interested in centers that we've talked about a bunch over the course of this regular season and offseason. So lots to break down. Let's dive straight into it. Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, breaking down the latest Toronto Raptors news, and things have been coming like crazy with free agency just around the corner. So let's dive straight into the first bit of news. We already addressed it in the intro, but Fred VanVleet, a $120 million extension incoming. Now, we had a lot of Raptors news sort of drop from Bleacher Report today, and they're sort of breaking down everything that's coming out around the team, especially Toronto Raptors players. The Ringer just did an article on Boucher, not much talk on him just yet, but the first thing that's addressed in this article here, headlined here, is a Fred VanVleet extension being offered. So apparently, for over the course of 4 years, right? Obviously, when you give the number of years matter, but over 4 years, the Toronto Raptors plan on extending Fred VanVleet for $120 million. So that would put us, obviously, it would likely increase over the course of the contract, all that sort of stuff, but you're putting Fred VanVleet at roughly $30 million per year. Now, a lot has been made about how Jalen Brunson is once a poor man's Fred VanVleet, but obviously after his playoff run, there's been some more reasonable comparisons between those guys, but the Knicks are planning on offering a similar bag to Jalen Brunson this offseason, and a lot of people have been flaming the Knicks for this in the case. Now, I don't think it's a horrible contract for Jalen Brunson, but Fred VanVleet, I think, is a much more reliable player at this point. Obviously, Brunson had a solid playoff run this year, yada, 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 but Fred's an all-star, an NBA champion, got a finals MVP vote, and has been a guy for the Toronto Raptors for at least the last 3 seasons. So I think he's earned a little bit more cachet throughout the league, and if Jalen Brunson's getting that sort of money, Fred VanVleet deserves every penny of this extension, and I'm happy we're offering it to him, because firstly, I know it looks like a lot of money. You're getting in the Siakam territory there in the $30 million per, but the NBA's salary cap, it's going up in future years. So the later you wait to pay Fred VanVleet, the more money you're going to have to end up giving him. And you want to build up that repertoire. There's a good relationship there between Fred VanVleet and the Toronto Raptors. You don't want to tarnish that by saying, oh, you have to bet on yourself at this point. No, he was an all-star this season. He's a guy that can run. He's, regardless if you want to play in the main lead ball handler, where there's been a lot of arguments for Scotty Barnes running the point and all that sort of stuff, but Fred VanVleet is the leader of this Toronto Raptors team, and he knocks down shots. He was playing at probably an all-NBA level before he got hurt sort of midway through the season. I know a lot of people only remember the last thing you gave to me and all that sort of stuff, and he gave us he tried his hardest in the playoffs. He tried his hardest in the second half of the season, but playing through injuries just couldn't push through, right? A healthy Fred VanVleet, it deserves this money and more, and especially when you consider the contract or the salary caps going up in future seasons, this is a W for the Toronto Raptors to get this deal done. Secure your main guys, secure your core group, and I'm happy Fred VanVleet's getting this bag. So I know that might be controversial among some Raptors fans. I know people really turned on Fred VanVleet, some people during this year's NBA playoffs, but he's proven what he can do. He's an all-star. He's won a championship, as I've already ranted about. So this is a W for the Toronto Raptors making this move. But the next contract was something I never expected Fred VanVleet to leave, but there were question marks about whether or not the Toronto Raptors would be able to bring back Thaddeus Young. And apparently, it's in the works of there's an expectation, according to this article from Bleacher Report, that Thaddeus Young will return to the Toronto Raptors on a $10 million contract over the course of 2 seasons. So we'd be ending up paying Thaddeus Young $5 million per year, which I think is a huge bargain for this guy. Now, obviously, is he the most elite shooter? Is he going to be creating buckets left, right, and center? No. He's not one of those guys, but the level of hustle that he brings, the high IQ basketball that Thaddeus Young plays with, just in terms of facilitating for others, the 1-2 dynamic he had with Chris Boucher there in the playoffs was something to behold, right? And the fact that he is still a threat from behind the three-point line from the mid-range area, just having that level of veteran presence that can still play, can still hustle, can still do all these things out there on the court, that is a guy you want to keep around. And for only $5 million per year, a guy that you know, come playoff time, come whenever, he'll be able to play in the rotation for your team, hasn't dealt with any significant injuries over the course of his career. I think this is a bargain for the Toronto Raptors, and I don't think there's a huge market for Thaddeus Young, just given his age, 33, 34 years old. He's bought out at the deadline last year, but $5 million and still, in my opinion, a massive steal for this team. Get him on a 2-year deal, bring him in, see what he can do, run that power forward position, run that high post actions that we saw a lot from Thaddeus Young this year. And I think while the Fred VanVleet, just because it's such a high number and he did struggle during the playoffs, some people might be a little bit confused, frustrated, or whatever by that deal, even though I'm elated that we're bringing Fred VanVleet back, likely, according to these reports. I think everyone would agree. Bringing back Thaddeus Young at $5 million per year is a huge W for the Toronto Raptors. Now, and if you look back at the trades, obviously some people were questioning moving back in the draft and trading away a first, second round pick and that Goran Dragic Thaddeus Young deal. I think after this, and we bring back Thaddeus Young, right? I got the Dragic and the Chad, Giga Thad, whatever you want to call him, right? I think that deal is secured W if we end up re-signing him this offseason. So huge props to Masai Ujiri. Thinking ahead, looking into the future, you love to see that sort of stuff. But the next topic we're discussing, we're diving into is an interesting one, as the Raptors' asking price for OG Anunoby has apparently been leaked. This is coming from HP Hoops or whatever, NBA. I saw the tweet from NBA Central. Creeped the guy that ended up tweeting it, and seeing he had a few followers, so we'll see how credible this one specifically is. But apparently, HP Basketball got that right. The asking price for OG Anunoby was the number 7 pick, as we knew, either Josh Hart or Nasir Little, and a future first round pick. That's interesting. Now, obviously, the 7th pick in this year's draft ended up being Shaedon Sharpe, Canadian. Didn't play basketball last year, but is dripping in potential, right? As a guy that has a lot of, I think it wasn't him that came, another other Canadian ended up coming out and roasting LeBron or something. But Shaedon Sharpe has had some high praise for himself as well. But, there's not necessarily a win now player, I guess, considering he hasn't played organized basketball in 8 months. But potential, future, all that sort of stuff, it's intriguing. So probably the Raptors would have went that route, or maybe Dyson Daniels, someone in that range in terms of a draft pick. But when I was making the preview videos, I was saying I'd be hesitant as a Toronto Raptors fan to accept 7, Josh Hart, and Nasir Little, and Keon Johnson. I was saying I got that would probably be too much for Portland side of things and asking price, but I'm surprised Masai Ujiri, and we all know he drives a hard bargain. We all know he's not giving up any of his core players for nothing, for giving them away just out of his good heart, his good nature. But I would have expected the asking price to be more, honestly. I'm surprised Portland didn't reconsider this because, obviously the first round pick long term, you might be mortgaging your future a little bit, but OG is such an upgrade over a Josh Hart at this point, especially Nasir Little. And if you're planning on winning now, that core group of a Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons, OG Anunoby, Jeremy Grant, and Yusuf Nurkic, I'm surprised that the Blazers would turn down a 7 Josh Hart or Nasir Little, not Ant, or Nasir Little and a future first, especially if they threw some protections in on it. So happy the deal didn't go down. I personally would have been pretty sad if that deal ended up happening, even though I would have fell in love with whoever we drafted, because Masai Ujiri, I trust that man with my life. But interesting stuff that asking price was leaked. In my opinion, a little bit low for OG Anunoby. Now, the final topic of discussion is something that's been brought up multiple times, but the Raptors continue to be interested in Bamba and Rudy Gobert. Now, the first, there's a couple of reports. I combined them into one sort of segment just because we've talked about these guys so much over the past couple of months. But the first one is coming from the Orlando Sentinel, obviously the home team of Mo Bamba, and saying the Raptors, Knicks, Lakers, Bulls, Rockets, Heat, and Timberwolves expect to be interested in Mo Bamba. So that's a lot of teams that are interested in Mo. This tweet ended up following a tweet saying that the Orlando Magic, I'm mixing up my teams here. Obviously, they just drafted Paolo Banchero, who was the number 1 overall pick, but they're not extending a qualifying offer to Mo Bamba, so they're letting him be an unrestricted free agent. So he's out there on the open market to be had. We don't have to worry about matching if we do want to bring him in. So the Raptors were the first team listed in terms of interest in Mo Bamba. I've given my opinion on him a bunch. If we can bring him in at a solid salary, I know we just got Koloko, but obviously the more years you have in the league, the more likely you are to be a contributor, especially as a bigger, longer center. It takes years to develop usually. If he can come in, enter the Raptors development system, I don't know if he'd necessarily be a great vet to mentor Koloko, even though he plays similar positions, has had some years in the league. I'm not saying he's a bad influence in the locker room. It's just he's still developing himself. I don't mind having two of those guys off the bench playing similar positions, even if it might eat into different playing time, because I think Mo Bamba would thrive here, especially if we can get him on a cheap contract. Now, the price for him will be question mark. That's something I'm not even going to dive into because I've talked to on a previous podcast, but might be out of our mid-level sort of pay range. And also coming from that original Bleacher Report article, the Raptors continue to be interested in Rudy Gobert. The name won't go away. Rudy Gobert, the Stifle Tower. Again, I mentioned it following the draft in Koloko. I don't want to trade assets for Rudy Gobert, right? Would he come in and be a seamless fit on this team? Yes, but given his contract and given what we would have to give up, it's a no for me. No for me. I don't want Rudy Gobert at this point, especially where we have a 7-foot athletic, wiry center that can block shots and be a rim protector in the paint for the Toronto Raptors team right now. So that's my takes on everything. Lots of news going to be coming in hot, left, right, and center. Covering it on Raptors Digest. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out the Instagram, the Twitter, the TikTok, all that cool stuff. Anyways, enough of me rambling. I'm signing off. Cheers.